Esther, they've just had a baby, haven't they, in the last few weeks? And I know they went to a NCT class, a sort of antenatal class, and it reminded me of when I went to one with Charlotte a few years ago, and they did a thing. It was a kind of couples there. We were all sort of getting excited about having babies and how our life was going to change and all these kind of things. And it was all smiley, it was all happy. And then the lady running the class, what she did, she laid out a kind of timeline on the floor of 24 hours. So from 1 a.m, 2 a.m, 3 a.m, just went all the way for 24 hours. And then she gave us all a load of cards. And so she gave me sort of 10 cards that said nappy change. And then she gave someone else 5 ones that said make a cup of coffee. And someone else feed your in-laws who are visiting, get some exercise, cook healthy meals for your other children. And we all got given these cards. And then she said, okay, I'll give you 2 minutes and you've got to place where you think these cards should go on the timeline. And so I was stuck with the nappies one. I was like, I don't know, every 2 hours, 3 hours, I don't know, in the middle of the night, and just laid these all out on the floor there. And everyone else put the healthy eating here, exercise, cups of tea, cleaning, laid them all out. And by the end of it, everyone who was kind of smiley and excited about having babies suddenly was like, what have we done? Our life is going to be busy now. It's too late to kind of back out. And Johnny, it was quite somber. I remember the car journey home with Charlotte. I don't think I really said anything all the way back. And hey, there we are. But Grace said it this morning. If you were here at the service, she said often we have those chats, don't we, with someone? We say, "How are you doing?" "I'm busy." We say that, and maybe we've asked the question as well to others. How are you doing? Oh, it's been really, really busy at the moment. And we can say that with all sorts of reasons in different ways, but that often is the answer, isn't it, in our lives? We feel busy. I've just finished a book by a guy called Adam Ramsey called Faithfully Present, and he puts it like this. He said, despite all the technological upgrades over this past century that purport to save us time, from cooking fires to air fryers, horses to cars, wooden ships to aeroplanes, handwriting to typing, letters to emails, and countless more, we all feel the unsettling disquiet of having less time than ever. Why is that? It's not that each of these upgrades doesn't free more minutes in each of our days. They most certainly do. Our problem is that we keep raising the bar. We keep filling those new minutes gained with an expectation of greater productivity. And then he finishes saying, and even when we do find a little space to think, our thoughts tend to drift towards what still needs to be done, the next bill to pay, the next project to finish, the next week to plan. I don't know if you can resonate with those that verdict and that assessment. And someone put it like this: there's 7. Well, this is one way. It's a hypothesis of 7 reasons that we are so busy, or we like to be and feel so busy. And I don't know. I'll just go through this very briefly. Busyness is a badge of honour and a status symbol. So the kind of glorification of busy. We want to show our importance, our value to others in the world, our self-worth in a fast-paced society. So it's good. We like being busy. It's attractive. The second one, busyness is job security. So kind of busyness is an outward sign that, yeah, we're productive, we're loyal to this company or to this place. And we kind of like that, and maybe think that will get us a promotion or whatever it might be. Busyness is FOMO, fear of missing out, that is. So we pack our calendars or our social media feeds with the kind of highlight reels of our life, and we want to be seen as busy so that we don't fear that kind of missing out. Fourth one, busyness is a byproduct of the digital age. And that's pretty common, isn't it? The 24/7 connected culture that we live in is blurring the line, isn't it, between what is life and what is work. Richard mentioned that in the service this morning. When do we switch off? Well, we don't, because we always need to be on because of technology. Or busyness as a time filler. Again, we live in the age of abundant choice, and we have infinite ways to fill our time, online or offline. And instead of leaving those idle moments and the restorative white space between things, we've got a few moments and we fill it. This book again I've just read recently. The guy commented that you're in a queue at the supermarket, And if someone's not sort of doom scrolling on their phone and they're just looking round, it's kind of like, they're a bit weird, aren't they? They're not looking at their phone. What they do? They try to make eye contact. That's kind of the age we live in. Sixth one, busyness is necessity. Working multiple jobs to make ends meet. Maybe caring for kids, or taking them to clubs, or whatever. So many things, and we just have to be busy because of that. And then the last one, busyness as escapism. Maybe we're scared to slow down and ask the tough questions in life. Maybe deal with past emotional pain, or deal with, questions. What's the meaning of life? What is my purpose? And we think, if I stop and don't be busy and slow down, well, I'll have to deal with some pretty big things. So I'll just crack on and be busy. Well, just in the little groups you're in, have a look at those. Which one resonates with you personally? And then if you get through that, the question, is busyness a good thing or a bad thing? Okay, that's a pretty open-ended question, isn't it? But there we go. In your groups, which one resonates with you? Is busyness a good thing or a bad thing? And then we'll come back together in a few moments.
I think 6 maybe. Yeah, there's two things. There's always something that has to be done. And church.
I think that also in my kind of digital age, which I'm as soon as I'm sat still, I just check my emails. Which one do you resonate?
I think the digital thing, well, I'm not social media, I do actually use it. You do it over possibilities by looking at stuff, interactive with stuff, emails
I'm definitely 5. If I stop now, what can I be doing now? Yeah. I think me, could I or should I? Yeah, I think for a lot of people it is like a badge of honour. Like, yes, I'm a busy person. Is it a good or bad thing? Depends what you're busy doing, surely.
good or bad thing.
Yeah. Good or a bad thing?
It's not so busy is what you can be busy and put it first, or you can be not busy and not busy. Or not busy and do you know what I mean? I don't know whether it's a bad thing or
What is across the day?
I think that different people have different idea of what busy is as well, don't they? Like sometimes I think, well, I've got a lot more capacity to do things, whereas other people wonder. Do you know what I mean? Like it depends on
We're going to limit it to an hour. Okay, let's draw it back together. Any feedback, any comments on which one of these 7 stood out for you or in culture at the moment? Any reflections on that?
Talk about productivity being kind of almost like if you're not shown to be productive, if you're not shown to you know, you're talking to people at work and they say kind of, well, what have you been up to, what have you been doing, what have you got to show for yourself?
Yeah.
It kind of almost is a subtext for being a badge of honour and status symbol.
Okay, so a bit of that first one, maybe a bit of the second as well, job security. Yeah.
I think byproduct of the digital age, like you said, even in the supermarket queue, every time you stop, there's emails to check, there's, you know, or even doom scrolling or whatever on your phone. Very rarely do we actually sit and do nothing.
Yeah, I get anxious if I'm not being productive because I think, well, I'll regret it if I don't, because I'll then be too busy later.
Yeah, okay, so things will catch up on me, so I need to, get ahead. Yeah.
Time filler through how you're being bored.
Yeah. So the kind of, the white space, thing is a bit scary almost sometimes. We just,
There is a certain level of busyness that is actually a good thing in that it kind of keeps the pace up, you feel a bit energised, you can feel a bit sluggish if you haven't got anything to do. But then there's obviously a ceiling, isn't there? And it can tip over into too much business.
And we're not going to go into it later tonight, but in a nursing home or retirement home, if people are busy knitting, for example, that is because it is good to work. It's good to be productive. So there is, there's positive as well. We won't go into that later tonight. That's good. Thank you. Well, we all have 24 hours. No one's got any special treatments on that tonight. You won't be surprised to know on that. And but 24 hours, it does feel like too little time sometimes, doesn't it? To do everything that we want to do. And often we end up feeling tired, burnt out. That's the phrase, burning the candle at both ends. Hands up if you feel that, or you have felt that before, as most of us would do. Yeah, there is a word of warning as well. Kevin DeYoung, in his book Crazy Busy, puts it like this. He says, the presence of extreme busyness in our lives may point to deeper problems: pervasive people-pleasing, a restless ambition, a malaise of meaninglessness. We'll explore later. And I might disappoint you, but if you came to this equipped tonight and thinking that I was going to give you kind of 10 tips to shave 10 hours off your work week, there are books that claim that kind of thing, and I love those books. I try and read them sometimes. Or how to tame your inbox or get your diary in order. It's probably not going to be necessarily the one for you. We will get practical, but I want us actually to get deeper than that, to think about what the Bible has to say about busyness and work and rest. It's going to be a time to chat and discuss. But I'd love to just look at one verse as we start, and this has helped. Some of the things I'm saying here helped by a book by Matt Fuller called A Time for Everything. And the verse is Matthew 11:28. It's a famous verse, isn't it? Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. There was a headline a few years ago that read, stressed office workers in China are paying to scream abuse at a stranger. And the service was called Curse Absorber. And you could either pay £2 for 5 minutes, a rant on the phone, or £3 if you wanted someone to argue back at you. I've not included the number on the PowerPoint, just in case you want that. But it's not hard, is it, to feel weary or to feel burdened? I imagine that many of us in this room at the moment will feel those things. And weary, that has the sense of kind of running out of steam. Burdened has the sense of things being dumped on us, weighing us down. And there's lots of ways that we can feel burdened. Burdened by the need to prove ourselves, kind of justify ourselves in life. Maybe burdened by the expectations of others. So perhaps that's a parent's expectations that they put on us, or a spouse, or a friend, or a boss, or a teacher at school. Being burdened by that expectation from others. Or burdened by religion. Are burdened by the needs of others. We just say, I can't say no to that person, and we come into the position where we're almost sort of acting as their Messiah, their saviour for this individual. Or burdened by trying to be secure or just survive in life. It's worth just pausing now and asking the question tonight, why am I burdened? What do I lie awake thinking about? When do I get most angry or worried? Why am I burdened? Just a few moments of quiet now, just to think that in your own mind. Well, Jesus calls you and he calls me to come to him. All you who are weary and burdened or heavy laden. Now, Jesus knew tiredness and exhaustion. He knew the burden of looking after others. He knew that he needed to withdraw, sometimes, didn't he, in the Gospels, from the crowds. Yet here, what does he promise? He promises rest. And rest here isn't an extra large glass of red wine, or an epic lion, or a film on Netflix. But it's a deeper rest, a rest for the soul, rest in life. And the New Testament promises that place of rest is a place in the future, the new creation, ultimate rest there, but also a time where it's a status now of resting in Jesus, giving thanks for the salvation we have. And to throw our burdens upon him, it does mean trusting him as our saviour. He guarantees our entry into the promised land in the future, into heaven. Yet I can't overstate how important a starting place this is to come to him for rest now. What does that mean? Well, two of those areas. Maybe you're burdened by the need to prove yourselves. Kind of gone through the whole of life, perhaps, trying to prove yourself to others. Maybe that's in the workplace, or at school, or in front of other people. Well, remember that Jesus died for you and has promised a wonderful future for you. You're loved. You're an heir of the kingdom. You don't need to face life with weariness of what others will think of you. You're free to have a go at work. If it goes well, great. If it goes well at school, great. If not, that's okay. Because of Jesus, God delights in you either way. Or perhaps you're burdened by the need to try and be secure in life, perhaps financially, and that just kind of keeps you up at night. Well, knowing Jesus means we can relax, knowing that he's the one who provides our security ultimately. We're never beyond his loving protection. Yes, be wise and plan, but we don't need to be frantic and self-reliant. He provides everything we need. Matthew 6. And enjoying this rest means we can have dependence on him now. And so before we kind of jump onto practical things, I want to say that first. That's the essential thing. First of all, come to me, Jesus says, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Second thing that we move on to today is this question. Are my priorities godly? We've got to prioritise, don't we? I'm sure many of you have got numerous things on your plate. How do we prioritise things in a godly way? In terms of things on our plate, I just scribbled this down. For me, what do I need to do in any given week? Well, here's some things. I need to love God. That's not unique to me, that's all of us. Love God, love neighbour, love Charlotte, that is kind of unique to me, no way. Honour my parents, bring up the children in the training instruction of the Lord, help be one of the team that lead this church, pray continually, practice hospitality, encourage church members, evangelise, be on guard by reading the Bible, contend for the faith, rejoice in the Lord. Oh, I need to paint a wall in our house. I need to do the weekly shop, I'll be involved with that. Sort the mountain of laundry, pay the TV licence, wash the car, buy dental floss, and it's pretty overwhelming, isn't it? And I'm sure I've forgotten lots of things there. Others will have more on their lists than I've just said then. So how do we do that? How do we prioritise things in a godly way? We need to know and accept that in every week or every day, there will be things on the to-do list that aren't completed. But there is a time for everything that God wants us to do. Ephesians 2 verse 10, we are God's handiwork, created in Christ Jesus to do good works, which God prepared in advance for us to do. Okay, maybe just shout out here rather than going in groups. You heard my list. You can make up your own list. Many of those things will be included on it. How do people kind of rank or prioritise? Maybe we're not the kind of people that think like that, but how would we try and sort of work out a hierarchy or try and prioritise? Just shout out any ideas, thoughts you've got?
I think trying to be like proactive rather than reactive. So I think, what are the essentials that I need to get done in the day rather than just getting up and going and then reacting to this person needs feeding, this, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Thinking actually, what are the things that are non-negotiables?
Okay. Yeah. So there are certain things that have to be done there. Yeah.
What's urgent and what's important?
Yeah. Business world stuff on that. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah.
Having a longer focus, I think, not just today, but if I'm on Mike and Kids on Sunday, maybe I shouldn't wait till Saturday evening, right? So
Yep.
got to think about some time to do that one day in the week.
Okay.
And having that kind of week or perhaps even 2 weeks of view.
Yeah.
Sometimes you'd want to do things you enjoy first.
Okay. Sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Well, that's got to be in there somewhere, right? Yeah. Things that refresh you, energise you, enjoy. Yeah.
What is the highest consequence of dropping?
Okay. Yeah. So if I hadn't prepared a sermon this morning for church, would have been a bit awkward, probably. Yeah.
What affects other people? So what you're doing for other people,
Okay.
and what you're doing.
Yeah.
You rather than me, is it?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Great.
And the kind of God, God, spouse, kids, work, like having that and not having that upside down.
Interesting. So that's Sarah. It's almost like you've read my mind on that. It's interesting. So sometimes we hear that kind of thing, don't we? Of that order: God, maybe family, church, work, kind of. So, and it's not bad as a principle to kind of think through and that kind of hierarchy or order. The two things kind of on that maybe just throw in there. One is we don't always necessarily get all of those things laid out in the Bible, and also it's not always as simple as this exact order. Yes, God first. We're not going to throw that one out tonight. But actually, things vary, don't they? Suddenly, elderly parents are very, very needy of our time, rightly so. And actually, we might have to step back at a role at church at that particular time. But then there's other times where maybe kids have grown up a little bit. We're free to serve a lot more at church. So we don't always have that kind of bang, 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 and in that way. And what I found really helpful again in this book on busyness that I referred to earlier is this kind of principle here that we'll work out in a little bit of detail in a minute. We are to serve the Lord in every arena of our life. It's not like we go, Sundays are kind of God's and then the rest is all mine, or rest is for my boss. Actually, it's God's. We serve in all areas of life. And it's not always as simple as a list of kind of, I've got to nail these 16 things by the end of Monday. And there's no such thing as a perfect diary. We can't do everything that we want. But actually this diagram here helps to sort of explain perhaps the heart attitudes going on under work. So what we've got in the middle here, if you can read, if your eyesight's good on that, is a whole area of freedom for lots of different areas in our life, where we can faithfully steward our time in between these lines, being wise in between these lines. Defining where the lines lie in the different arenas of this life helps us to enjoy the freedom to be faithful. And so I'll work these out in practical ways in a minute, but there's a whole area here of freedom. But above it, this is the sort of ceiling of obedience, is idolatry for any particular area of our life. And we don't want to operate above this line here, seeping into idolatry, and I'll explain all this in a sec. But also we don't want to neglect areas of our lives sinking below this line. So there's a whole load of freedom going on here. We don't want to idolize by sort of prioritizing things more than they should, or neglect below. And so I'm going to give an example of this worked out in one way, and then I'm going to get you to do the others for me, kind of in groups. So, for example, take family. For example, I don't mean just necessarily kind of the spouse or children, maybe parents or different family settings. What does the Bible say? Well, let me just read out a few verses. Ephesians 5, husbands, love your wives, just as Christ loved the church, gave himself up for her, to make her holy, cleansing her by the washing with water through the word. So, okay, I'm a husband, I need to listen to that. Fathers, Ephesians 6, verse 4, do not exasperate your children, instead bring them up in the training and instruction of the Lord. Then Matthew 10, anyone who loves their father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who loves their son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Okay, I've taken some Bible truth there. What's that then look like? Well, again, whole area of freedom going on. So you're free to take the family on holiday or not. Okay, so a lot of freedom in that. free to go to the museum. We had a nice time at the Space Museum last weekend. Oh, lovely. We didn't have to go there, that's okay. Freedom within that. The kids would have been annoyed not getting the ice cream that they got at the end of it there. Free to book a romantic night away. Okay, free not to. There's kind of freedom within those things there. A whole load of freedom to operate in. But there's also the chance to neglect with family, to put your own selfish interest, we thought about that this morning, and comfort above family. So I guess that's the stereotype, isn't it, of that maybe the dad coming home from work and putting his feet up, getting the beer out, newspaper in front of his face, and then, oh, the kid's gone now. Okay, kind of caricatures there, but neglecting, I guess, in that way, putting own self-interest and comfort above family, or failing to teach Christ, to model love for him, neglecting in that way, or breaking promises of time with your children, saying, oh, I'm going to be with you this Saturday, and then you don't. Hey, lots of people would have done that. There's forgiveness, there's grace for those times that we mess up in that way. Or maybe neglecting parents. So, because a whole load of freedom, but we don't want to neglect as well in a particular area. And then idolatry at the other end of the extreme, if you like, is loving children more than Jesus, okay? Skipping church kind of all the time to take kids perhaps to a sports game rather than ever taking them to church on a Sunday. Or viewing home as a castle where no one's allowed to come past the drawbridge rather than actually opening our homes, if we're a family, as a place to serve. Hey, anyone come in that way. So that's just some examples from the kind of family setting. What I want you to do is to just go in groups. There's some Bibles at the back actually there, and maybe this part of the room over here, broadly speaking, can look at work. So looking at those three passages and then thinking in your groups, what does freedom look like? What does idolatry, what does neglect look like? Maybe the middle part of the room sort of here can look at church. Then you guys get leisure, okay? Andrew, very happy about that. Look at those verses. So maybe we can get a few Bibles around. I'll give you a good 10 minutes in groups just to think through that. And we'll come back together.
Yeah.
We are in church.
We are indeed.
We are in church.
We are the church.
I think it's
let's consider how we may spur one another on to not giving up meeting together as some other habits are doing, but encouraging one another all the while. One must give
so we've got encouraging they're all in the middle bit, they're all good. So yes, we each of those in what would be neglected or the idolatry, not neglecting Not valuing meeting together. Yeah. It would be quite easy to go to a house thing. Yeah. Or just miss church and forget that it was all. What would you do as idolatry for that one? Then we're kind of encouraging each other to come into church. Maybe come into church for the wrong reasons. To be sociable, to what take from it. Yeah.
Or doing it for the coming to be served and not to serve. Coming as a consumer rather than
It's easy to turn up and not doing it because being the neglect end of things going, well, I can't serve because makes reasons.
money, wasn't it?
Not feeling much all
Oh, it's idolising the money, isn't it?
Idolising
Not
the
giving.
money,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay, right. Yeah.
I think if you're coming for other people to tell you how well you're doing, or coming to look good, maybe you're playing in a music. That's like said you're playing in a music group because people can see you on the stage.
I think that can be yourself in that way. But it's quite easy, I think, more easy to slip into the ideology I suppose it depends, right? For me. Yeah, it's how you make the encouraging, becoming an encouraging.
Yeah.
Or the idol that it becomes by doing it the wrong way, possibly.
Maybe if you're really it's hard to come and encourage others because you're too busy going around criticising what everyone's doing.
Yeah, the opposite of that is kind of encouragement is criticism. Yeah, being a patronising of
It's a bit like Nathan was saying this morning, coming to church and going, drums are too loud, and like that sort of
I haven't heard this morning yet, because I think it's been about you, not been about me.
Self.
It's quite stark, isn't it, when you put it into terms of idolatry? That sounds okay, but when what you're actually saying is, I'm not church being about me, and not about me. It's actually part of sin, isn't it? Yeah. It's quite stark.
Several hours. Because that's what's expected. Because there are that
Okay, let's come back together. Don't worry if you didn't do it all and didn't get through it. Let's have some feedback then. So work, will you guys work over here? Just help us with it then. What did potential idolatry look like with work from the passages you were looking at and maybe more generally? Just shout out.
perhaps working to gain favour with, say, your bosses, but only for your own self-promotion.
Okay. Yeah.
Without pointing that through to Christ.
Yeah.
Or working hard to prove you're the best at something, like all skill and work coming from a man's envy of his neighbour in the Ecclesiastes.
Okay, Ecclesiastes. Yeah. Great.
That insatiable desire for more earning, more the kind of the spoils of it. That was Ecclesiastes as well. That sort of one handful is okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Rather than always wanting 2 or 3.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks so much. What about freedom in the middle? What does it look like in terms of that area of freedom in the workplace as a Christian?
It's okay to work hard.
Good even to do that.
Yeah. I agree. Yeah. And commendable. And,
Yeah.
and required actually.
Yeah. Okay. Good. What about neglect?
It might be if your boss is away on holiday and you think, actually, while they're away, I'm going to just maybe take a step back, take it a bit easier, and not actually work wholeheartedly. They won't know, it's fine.
Okay, yeah. So the old kind of get there a bit early, put the coat on the back of the chair, go out for a coffee, and then your boss will think you've been there. Apparently, yeah. Yeah.
That's what everyone's taking home.
What did Nathan talk about tonight? Well, he gave me a... Yeah, good.
There's a risk of tipping into idleness.
Idleness, yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah. Well, I was thinking the workplace will look different for different people, and for some reason people won't be able to necessarily work for various reasons in the sort of typical workplace as well. So we can expand this beyond that understanding. Let's move on just for time. Church, you guys in the middle. What might idolatry look like with church?
The passages kind of had 3 things. One was about being encouraging of each other, which we found really hard to think of idolatry, but maybe coming for yourself, being critical, like you were saying this morning, being critical of what's happening at church because it's not what you wanted it to be, so putting yourself at the centre there.
Okay, yeah.
What's one about?
Serving,
so serving to look good.
Yeah.
And the other one was about finances. So valuing your money for yourself rather than for what it can do for a church.
Okay. Yeah. Well, what does freedom look like then in those areas in the church?
Putting others before yourself.
Yeah.
As you said this morning.
So free in terms of how much you give, and where you serve and what you do.
Yeah. Whole load of freedom in that. Yeah. Quite liberating, isn't it? What about neglect? Church?
Coming up with a lot of excuses as to why you can't serve.
Well, we talked about the opposite of encouraging one another. It's like being kind of negative and backbiting, like neglecting the need to encourage one another.
I think practically as well that neglect can just simply look like not prioritising opportunities to meet with others to encourage that.
Yeah.
So that might be not thinking about the diary and being absent from a church service for several weeks on the trot,
Yeah.
or never get into a small group.
Yeah.
It can be as practical as that, can't it? Sometimes.
Absolutely, and you know, the odd week, of course, stuff comes up or people are away or whatever. But yeah, you're right. It's a few weeks in. Oh, it's been a month. Oh, it's been 2 months. Oh, you know. Just really here, just scribble this down. It's hard to neglect time with family or work, and get away with it in those settings, in the workplace or in family. It's easier with church, I think. 75% of UK residents don't bother leaving the house on Sundays. Franny? There we go. Well done, guys, making it out. Yeah. 67% of statistics are made up, isn't it? But actually, the whole area of freedom as well in the church thing. Again, someone says, "Oh, can you join us on the kids team, or can you join T and Car?" There is freedom actually to say yes, and there's freedom to say no with that as well. At different points of life, to do that as well. Any more insights from the church guys in the middle? Or should we move on to?
We talked a bit about the idolatry of church. But how can you, how can you be, how can you do that? But I think it can sometimes be tempting to be with church folk, where your friendship, where your safe space is, and perhaps neglecting people outside the church, friendships, and being outward focused. So we absolutely acknowledged the need to meet together and to encourage one another regularly, and to try and make that a priority. But also we acknowledged actually it's important to not just be in a holy bubble.
Sure. Yeah, great.
And actually mixing your worlds a bit as well.
Really helpful, man. Thank you so much for that. Brilliant. Let's move on to the last group, leisure. What did idolatry look like in the leisure sphere, you guys?
We were looking at it from the point of view of having a Sabbath.
Okay.
And that, God said on the seventh day you should rest. And idolatry in that respect would be, I suppose, being terribly legalistic about this. Not doing anything on the Sabbath, like some of the Jews used to, didn't they?
Yeah, it's interesting you said it that way. I was thinking you were going to say that to not rest, actually. Almost thinking to not have pleasure.
To make an idol of
sure.
the Sabbath,
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Any other ways of?
But the point that you were making, Nathan, is we also mentioned that neglect of the Sabbath is an obvious phenomenon in our society today, that we neglect to observe the Sabbath, and Teresa pointed out that the verse that's there, Exodus 34:21, it emphasizes don't neglect the Sabbath even during harvest time, when you would need to be working even more than at other times. Don't work because it's the Sabbath.
So I guess that's almost the neglect element, isn't it, on that of the requirement of rest biblically in that way, and the need for.
But the 2 Timothy 3 for neglect talks about becoming lovers of pleasure rather than lovers of God. Yeah. And I think we can see that in society all the time, can't we? Because in my childhood, if you like, Sunday was sacred, you just didn't do anything. But now, of course, Sunday is the same as any other day, isn't it?
Sure, so, yeah, you can step into that, yeah.
I think rest can also become idolatry itself. You don't want to give away your pleasures of what you do on your rest day or your hobby day to others or to God.
Yeah.
And so the Sabbath was made for man, but it wasn't made about man. So it was made to be spent with God.
Thanks, Anna. Brilliant. Good. Okay, well, those are 3 areas: church, work, leisure. You can go into all the other areas that you can think of life as well. And I just find that a helpful way of thinking. And there, hey, loads of freedom, But actually, let's watch out for idolatry. The Bible warns about that. Let's watch out for neglect as well, and then working out what it looks like within those boundaries in the different areas. And again, I just want to there's grace, there's fresh starts in the Christian life. We might look at this and go, I've got this so wrong with my family or with work, or I've messed up. There's grace at the cross for when we've done that. Just quickly as well, I want to just say we've slightly touched on it with leisure and rest and those things. Just to ask a simple question: are you making time to rest? I don't know if you saw, it was Bradley Cooper, wasn't it, in the film Limitless? Have you seen that? I think there was a TV series of it as well, where he takes that little pill that means he can just achieve everything that he wants to. Has anyone seen it? Yeah, people have seen it. Okay, that's sort of going mad then. And you can just do everything, and it's amazing, and everyone's, wow, look at this event. None, we can't do that. Okay, we can't live in that way. We need to sleep. Psalm 127. We are creatures who need rest and need sleep. So habits of generally trying to go to bed at the same time, trying waking up at the same time. Those kind of things are really, really important. Good. Well, let's look at the last little area then, just as we finish. One thing you must do, Jesus says. And it's a famous story, isn't it, of Mary and Martha in Luke's Gospel. And it goes like this: as Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary, who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me. Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. It's probably the closest you get to a sermon on busyness in the Bible, I think. And it is, even reading it just now, it is easy to think, poor old Martha, right? She's being hospitable. She's opened her home to Jesus. She's busy serving. Wasn't Martha doing exactly what the Bible kind of encourages? After all, someone needs to peel the potatoes and pay the car tax and transfer money into savings and put the wheelie bins out. And Mary's style might work, we might think, this kind of style of sitting in Jesus, that might work for a monk, but get real. We're in the real world. Now, it's easy, isn't it, to sympathise, to empathise with Martha. And like Martha, often we are busy with loads of different things. But here's the point. We're often busy, but often not with what matters most. Martha's business is not wrong, but it's not what's best, Jesus says. It's not that we don't peel potatoes, pay the car tax, transfer money into savings, put the wheelie bins out, but it's a strong reminder that we need to put first things first. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her. And the key word really in verse 40 is distracted. Martha was giving Jesus spiritual leftovers. Learning from him, spending time with him, should not be an afterthought for us, but a priority. Richard, I was so encouraged this morning when, if you were at the second service, he just said, actually on the train down to work, rather than kind of doing emails or checking the news or social media, trying to get into the habit of just reading the Bible on that journey. That sort of, whatever you want to call it, devotionals, quiet times. That time sitting, if you like, at Jesus' feet, spending time. We can't do anything better than that, Jesus says. It's worth saying a few undistracted minutes are better than a distracted hour. It's not godly if you set your alarm at 4 a.m. and think, what a legend I am, but then you're distracted and sort of on social media or falling back to sleep. A few minutes that are undistracted are better than a distracted hour. And wouldn't it be great as a community here at Mighton Church if we took our cue from Mary here and her example, sitting at Jesus' feet, listening to his words, being devoted to him. I'm going to pray that we might be those people. I'm going to get a couple of questions just as we finish in groups, and then we'll draw stumps at 7. So let me just pray. Father, life is really busy for many of us. We feel the pinch on our time. And so I pray that we would listen to those words of Jesus, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Father, I pray that as we balance and spin the different plates in our lives, we wouldn't fall into idolatry or neglect, but we would enjoy the freedom to do what you've called us to do in the different realms of life you've given us. And Lord, above all, I pray that we would be like Mary and sit at your feet and listen to you, even if that's just for a few minutes a day, in an undistracted way, spending time sitting at your feet, learning, listening to what you have us to do, and enjoying the rest that we have in Jesus. And I pray this in his name. Amen. A few questions here, again, just in your groups. They're quite personal questions, but hey, we're family, we can talk about these things, share as much as you feel able to. But just a few things to reflect on. Am I resting in Jesus, spending time with him like Mary? Maybe we might want to encourage each other. How do you do that? You know, ask someone else in your group who you know is busy. How are you doing that? How are we getting on? We're getting time, get to bed at a decent time, wasting time on social media. Let's just be honest, have a chat with each other just for a few minutes, and then I'll call this together.
It's at 11 o'clock local time, isn't it? My one's an hour and a half. Social media.
Never watch the videos. It's got to be a good show.
Oh, I know.
Delete it. It makes you miserable. Delete it.
I've got a game on my phone.
Professional, isn't it? Am I wasting time? Yes, definitely I am. But then sometimes it's like, that's my rest time, and that's what I'm choosing to do with it. And so, so sometimes.
Oh, we're not really on it. That's a good joke.
But I also think social media has changed. So, I mean, I'm the Facebook generation of my generation did on social media, and actually, I used to on Facebook actually, Facebook has changed at the end, and now I see a whole load of stuff that attracts me to adverts videos, take a look at somebody's house and that's what I seem to get a lot of. Oh, okay, give you the best for the rest. And you know, actually that's not the connection that social media is with. By the time I
I always feel sorry for
I'm going to try I was really convicted because last night we went out for me and went out with the kids. And there was like washing up to do, and that was really inspiring. And I was like, can you go wash up? And he was like, I'll do it later. I was like, I'll do it then. And I spent that half an hour washing up, being like, why isn't he doing it? And then I was reading that it's not Willie, it's Willie aggravated. But I used it on the way to work. So after we got from Word Alive lecture, I was so thinking, and then I started listening to the Bible after the way to work in the car before I listened to history podcast. But then recent times, I couldn't this morning because I've been listening to history, so I was like, right, I'm going to get back into it. It's quite good with the rain in the car, I found quite a good time. Like reading my Bible, I can't
I take a break before I go to bed.
I read my Bible, I'm like,
So basically, so I said to Tim for Lent.
I made my other holiday that it's really good. And I was like, and then we can go to the second thing, so usually when you're going to a holiday, actually a chapter a day.
Right, let's draw back together. Good. I hope you've all found the optional bedtime, and you've been discussing that as well. Perfect time to sleep. Just a few, if you want to think about these things a little bit more, I'll leave that on the screen at the end. Time for Everything, How to Be Busy Without Feeling Burdened. I mentioned that book, really, really helpful. Crazy Busy, saying similar things, American author there. Adam Ramsey, I've just finished, is Faithfully Present. That was just really quite, really, really helpful. I enjoyed that. To read. Do More Better, A Practical Guide to Productivity. That's a slightly different book. Really, really good. If you want to go sort of how to yeah, not great English, but that's fine. That's really kind of yes, American. That's really good on kind of, again, sort of specific things with how to use apps and emails and kind of lists and prioritise and things. I've taken a lot of that on. That's really good. The Best Thing to Do by Steph Williams. That's the story of Mary and Martha for young children. So probably aged 3 to 7 or something like that. If you want to give that to someone or read that. Or for grown-ups as well. And then the last one here, Be Still. There's a reflections on the Psalms, devotional on the Psalms by Matt Searles. And again, if you're thinking tonight, maybe, do you know what? I just haven't had those devotional times. I haven't had those quiet times. I'd really recommend that as a good one just to get started. They're about 1 or 2 pages long, pretty simple, basic, really rich, and really good. So those are a few things if you want to think about these things more. But thanks for coming. See you next week. Ken Nielsen's here next Sunday evening doing the communion service preaching, so that'll be a really real highlight. So do come out for that. Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what
Well, the thing is, you get up way before I do to work.